Having seen some of the budgets that people will ask friends and family to contribute for their wedding or will take up as a burden for the sake of their wedding, I actually wouldn't mind it if people did the whole, like let's just charge people a bunch of money for the tickets and shit and then see who comes. Because you kind of think about it. A wedding is a couple's, or probably one of the couple's largest expenses. For some people,
the royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man who might find it hard to breathe if you've got that asthma. He is also a man whose sickness for the thickness prevents him from skinny dipping. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. I have come through to talk about the one thing that I do not like talking about the most, and that is money. Like, for some reason, I don't know why, it's like I usually try to run away from some of these topics, but they just seem to find me when I least want it. And for some reason, even though I may want to avoid the topic, it seems like there's some people that actually seem to like it quite a bit, which is, of course, why I always end up bringing it back. But all in all, if you do like it, if you don't like it, if you want to contribute to the makings of these episodes by suggesting some of your own or giving your own feedback, then the social media links are usually down in the description below, so you can hit me up through that. And if you're not a fan of the social media, then you can also hit me up through the fan mail, which is accessible from the first link in the description, which is usually listed as give feedback here. And I would be more than happy to take your opinions, to take some of these suggestions and work on them and make many episodes from them, because I'm sure y'all are a pretty smart lot and you see some angles that I don't see particularly that well. But all in all, thank you so much for listening. I hope you listen all the way till the end. And like I said, if you like it, if you don't like it, the social media and the links to everything is in the description. Now, I do want to get to the main topic because I do intend on taking quite a hit at women, because it was something that some women were sharing and it relates to something that some women have been saying. But for me to get there, I need to kind of defend the men for the entirety of that period. But before I can get to that, I first want to attend to a money issue that can sometimes be of great controversy, considering that it is probably one of the biggest expenses in a couple's lifetime. Now, the expense that I'm talking about is actually an event, and it is a wedding. Now, normally, people have been talking about weddings in some way or the other, some with good things to say, others with not so good things to say. But the particular wedding that I'm talking about in this case is that of a New York couple, which involved them charging their guests $333 each in an effort to save money. And out of the 350 guests that they invited, only about 60 came. Now, this was a story that piqued my interest, just mostly because it kind of warps the idea of what a wedding is, even the way the couple were talking about it. And it does actually bring forth a question that a lot of people do not want to address, which is, what if we just started charging people for weddings and then, you started to filter people out? Or shouldn't we probably be filtering out the people that come for weddings a lot more? But as I sort of work my way into that, let me just read the story real quick. So it says, and I quote, "To cut down on spending, newlyweds Nova and Remo Styles got creative, thinking of their nuptials like a concert and charging guests to attend their celebration. According to Nova, people choose to go to Beyonce concerts because they know that they're gonna have an experience. Let's put the stress on the guests and let's sell tickets for a wedding." Remo said, and I quote, "I was like, babe, people aren't going to come. People did come, but there was also some pushback. I would never spend money on tickets. I don't care. Who do you guys think you are, Jay-Z and Beyonce?" Someone told Nova. The tickets, priced at $333 a piece, earned guests a seat on their double-decker bus and a 12-hour adventure in New York City. Their strategy spared them $70,000 in wedding expenses. When friends and families saw the required fee on their invitations, more than 80% declined the invite, and just 60 individuals on their 350-person guest list bought tickets. End quote. Okay, now, seeing something like this, it does seem pretty baffling, pretty controversial, and quite the thing that most people would not really think would be able to be pulled off. But in my personal opinion, I don't know, I'm kind of looking at this and it actually doesn't seem like that bad of an idea. Like, having seen some of the budgets that people will ask friends and family to contribute for their wedding or will take up as a burden for the sake of their wedding, I actually wouldn't mind it if people did the whole, you know what, like, let's just charge people a bunch of money for the tickets and shit and then see who comes. Because you kind of think about it. A wedding is a couple's, or probably one of the couple's largest expenses for some people, even in their lives. It's literally something that, if you're looking at it in Kenya shillings, can get into the millions and very easily snowball into quite a number of million, just because you're going to have a large guest group from either side. You're busy trying to handle catering. At times you'll handle logistics, and sometimes you have to rent the cars. Like, I remember when I was working at my first job where we were busy leasing out some cars for a wedding, like, we used to have a Range Rover limo, and it was 25k an hour, minimum 4 hours, so it was like at least 100 G's for you to get it out. And yes, it would come with a pilot car, but it's not like they just get that. They'd get probably a couple of Range Rovers or maybe some Prados, and it's like people are spending 2, 3, sometimes almost 500,000 on just logistics alone, and it's literally just going to get the bride from her house to the venue. If the wedding is happening at a church, they'll move from the church to a reception, and after that, like, it's literally an 8-hour day and then they're gone. 200k end up spent on just logistics alone, and you're thinking about it and it's like people must have had a much bigger budget for everything else, because you're thinking about food, you're thinking about, you know, clothing and shit for the bridal party and all that. And you think about it, some people, if it wasn't for the fact that people will always have like the fundraisings for the weddings and they'll always ask like friends and family members to contribute, like, most people wouldn't be able to attain that level of spending, not unless if they took a massive loan and they'd be paying it for sometimes up to 10 years. So you think about it, if people were to pay for tickets to attend a wedding as an experience, I think that makes perfect sense. Because when you look at it, a lot of people will spend money on things like concerts and events, and a lot of times you will hear people say that they always support their friends, so spending a bunch of extra cash on a wedding as a ticket shouldn't be that big of an issue. If there's people that are spending $1,000 just to take photos with Chris Brown, then maybe sparing a couple of $100 in the US for a friend's wedding shouldn't be that big of an issue. Even though I am purely speaking as someone that doesn't spend their time in the US of A. And also, when you kind of think about it, it does minimize the number of people that come to your wedding just for the purposes of food or just for the sake of the fact that they didn't have shit to do. Because, like, okay, I know for a lot of us in this part of the world, the weddings aren't even about the couple. They're about the parents of the couples practically showing every single person they know that they can probably invite that, you know what, my kid's getting married. But you think about it, like, for the most part, how many of those people actually give a damn about you? Barely fuck all. So if you charge people and only those that would like to come and have the means, or, you know, those that would like to come so that someone else can see how they can sort them out, end up coming, then it means that there's a lot fewer of the fluff that you would see in the name of people coming, which would reduce the budget substantially. Because a vast chunk of the people that are there are just there probably because of the food, or just so that they can see who looks how, and if a bunch of people have come for that wedding because it's like a popularity thing, or, you know, they probably didn't have anything to do on that particular day. And I've seen the use case of this in proper action when a friend of mine sometime around June was having their birthday, and for their planning, what they did was that they planned this whole wine tasting experience and everything, and they told guys, like, for you to come, you need to pay X amount, so that they could go and like RSVP and plan for the number of people. And all the people who paid came, they had a pretty great time, and you could clearly see all of these people that put the money down to come and spend time with my pal absolutely loved my friend. Like, they absolutely cared about this guy, and he was super happy and his heart was full because he knew these people actually went out of their way to come and be with you. So even though most of these guys didn't bring gifts, it clearly meant that there was something behind it that did carry some weight. So honestly, I'm totally in agreement with what these guys did. Although I don't want to talk about this too much because I do have the main topic that I need to get onto. So moving things on to our main topic of this episode now. While I was on IG sometime last weekend, actually the weekend before last weekend, I stumbled across this one post that just so happened to be getting shared by quite a number of babes. And it was someone who had written a post saying, "This new generation of men want submissive providers." Now, I saw this on multiple women's stories just being posted up, and they're like, oh, this is so true. And yes, maybe you could say that I need to get better female friends, or I need to start following better women online or some shit like that. Maybe that's true. But I saw it from a couple of different women with a couple of different personalities who say a couple of different things about a couple of different things. And when I thought about it, I was like, is this really what you guys think of us men of today? Like, yes, maybe we might want to be babied a little bit more. Maybe we may not be as hard as some of your fathers, depending on who we are individually. But is this really what y'all think that most of us men want though? And I actually found it to be particularly interesting, but it got even worse when I got into the comments, because there was this one comment that just really, really hit me. And it was a woman who went ahead to say, and I quote, "Shall we go further, please? 1, they want a virgin porn star. 2, an independent submissive woman. 3, wear work boots and stilettos at the same time. 4, cook like grandma but got a body like Baywatch. 5, natural hair but closer to European texture. 6, carry yourself in a traditional manner while they act modern. 7, pay half the bills but treat them as if they are the head of the household. I can go on, but I'll stop here." End quote. And like, seeing this and seeing a lot of women saying roughly about the same things about this entire thing, it kind of drove me a little bit left field, because like, is this what you guys really think about us though? Is this what you guys think that us men of today really, really want? Because I don't know. I don't think it's really like that. I actually feel like most of y'all probably have a very skewed idea of what it is that us guys want. And I'll be very honest, when I saw this at first, I figured, you know what, I'll probably just give a short rant about this and then move on. But looking at it a little bit more deeply, I thought about it and I was like, nah, this is something that I'll definitely need to take some time on. Because if this is what you guys actually think that us guys want with women, then maybe I should try and just realign some things for y'all, because guys aren't really like that. And for the sake of trying to break this down, I'm gonna start by explaining the comment that I just talked about, so that I can, just really explain what guys really want, not in the skewed way that this woman was busy breaking stuff down, and then I can get into the main post itself. So as per the comments, the first thing that she said is they want a virgin porn star. Now, I personally do not want that. Like, of course, it's an unrealistic standard. And I will tell you for a fact, a lot of guys do not want a virgin porn star. Like, even just the virgin part. Like, nowadays, a lot of guys don't want virgins, especially like as you grow older. Maybe there's a certain age group, maybe there's a certain generation that idolizes virgins. But a lot of guys that I know who are millennials don't want a virgin. Like, the whole pressure of like being the first guy that she sleeps with and shit, that's some shit that a lot of guys don't want to deal with. Like, having that pressure, especially if, like, say you're trying to settle down and you are sort of meeting this babe and you're trying to go out with them, and then they want to have sex with you as like the very first person. Like, the moment you bang her as the first guy, then you better be ready to deliver on the whole, I'm going to make this woman my wife. And if she's gonna give it up to you before you guys get married, and she was a virgin initially, then you're gonna have a bunch of pressure and expectations just loaded onto you right after the act. And if she doesn't have sex with you before you guys end up getting married and you are a sexually active man, then there's a pretty good chance that either you might be fucking around, or you will just have to hope to high heavens that when you guys get married, that she is going to be great in the bedroom. Otherwise, if she is shit, then now you are going to have another issue. Then also the whole porn star bit, like, yes, do we like a freak in the sheets? Yes, we do, but it's not like we need to have a freak in the sheets. We do like to have one every so often, but even though you're just good for the most part, like, for us guys, as long as we're having good constant sex, we're good. It doesn't have to be great. It doesn't have to be mind-blowing. It just needs to be good. Because guess what? Most guys don't even have that much sex as they're growing up. So if anything, they just want sex. Like, if you can give them good consistent sex, or at least good constant sex, they'll probably be happy enough that they won't really bother you. So leaving that aside, moving it on to number 2, an independent submissive woman. Most guys, even for me who used to say I like an independent woman, like, it's not really an independent woman. Of course, I have grown a little bit older and I have learned a little bit more. I prefer an interdependent woman, because an independent woman will value her freedom and the fact that she's had her freedom for a while. So trying to, I don't want to say bring her into the relationship or bring her down or anything, but like the moment you're trying to get into a relationship with her, there's some elements of her independence that she may have to drop, because if she's going to act all independent, then she clearly doesn't need you. So where does your use case fall? So for the most part, we want an interdependent partner such that we can have a certain amount of interdependence, or, you know, I can depend on her for some things, she can depend on me for other things, and that makes the relationship a lot better because there's certain symbiosis that's there, and the value, or at least the quality of both your lives, should be better. But like us wanting an independent woman, I don't know. We want interdependence, but it's not like we want someone that is fully dependent on us. You know, at some point that might make us feel like we're being leached off of, but the ideal term here is interdependence, not independence. Submissive, yes, that one we definitely want. Then number 3, wear work boots and stilettos at the same time. Bullshit. We do not want women to wear work boots. Actually, we'd avoid it, and we would want women to avoid wearing work boots. If you say, you know, wear stilettos during the day and she comes to the house and she wears a dera, that makes sense. If you're saying that, you know, she can wear stilettos but she'll be wearing her flip-flops and she'll be doing the work at home, that makes sense. That one you can talk about it and say, you know what, guys want this, and I will not run away from that. A lot of guys want that. Most guys want that. If we can remove the stilettos for some of those situations, or at least lighten the load there, I think that's what a lot of us guys would want, so that she can be a lot better of a partner at home, especially if we'd want her to be a mother. So I don't know, I'd remove the work boots and I'd replace it with like kitchen items like an apron or some shit. Then number 4, cook like grandma but got a body like Baywatch. Now this is completely irrelevant, because how does one relate with the other? Like, it's not like my grandmother cooked well because she didn't have a great body. Like, what kind of bullshit is that? Like, how does one affect the other? You can learn how to cook well and have a great body. It's not like your cooking skills are entirely related to how well you work out in the gym or how healthy you are as a person. So while I do agree that us guys do want that, it's not like it's completely unattainable for any woman. Then number 5, natural hair but closer to European texture. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I actually don't give a flying shit what my woman's hair looks like, or at least what kind of hair my woman is going to have. Like, if you can have natural hair and wear it well, I'm happy. If you don't have natural hair but you can wear it nice, then I'm happy. If you're gonna shave off your entire head and have an Amber Rose type look, I'm happy for you if you choose to do that. At the end of the day, guys just want you to look good. We don't care whether it has European texture or not. We don't care if you're using braids or not. We don't care if it's natural or not. We don't care if you have a clean shaven head or not. At the end of the day, for the most part, 90% of the time, actually 95 if not 98% of the time, and of guys do not really give a flying shit what kind of hair you have, whether it's dreadlocks or sister braids, whether it's a weave or like a full-on natural head that's like puffied out. We don't give a flying shit. We just want you to look good. That's literally it. We don't care. Anyways, number 6, carry yourself in a traditional manner while they act modern. Us guys acting modern is us guys acting traditional. There's not that much of a difference, actually. Like, we'd argue about traditional women and how they act modern and how different that is, but for most men, the difference between the modern man and the traditional man is actually quite negligible to some degree, especially if you look at some of the bigger things, like the fact that we're required to be a provider and a protector. Like, that's never really changed. But ask a babe to cook and clean today, like, that difference between back then and right now Hey, I can ask for a sandwich and I'll be very, very curious what answer I'll get. Then last but not least, number 7, pay half the bills but treat them as if they are the head of the household. Now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but aren't these the same exact women that expect us to, have a certain amount of authority, be a dominant force, lead in shit? Like, so you expect us to lead, but you don't want to respect us for being leaders or being the lead because you contribute to the bills. Aren't you all the same ones that complain when a guy has no leadership quality or can't dominate, blah, blah, blah? But you're ready to complain about us not being able to do it because we want you to contribute to the bills? Like, as you can clearly see from all of the things that have been listed here as I've broken them down, some of these things are a little bit confused, mostly skewed, and just have the very, very worst idea of what guys have, or at least have the very worst idea of what guys want, if you kind of think about it. And just the whole idea that this new generation of men want submissive providers, like, I don't think most of y'all actually understand how most guys function. Like, if most of these guys out here that you want to be with, that you talk so shittily about, had boatloads of money, they'd probably want their partners to never work a day in their lives. They'd probably want their partners to no longer be in corporate. Just stick to taking care of the kids and, ensuring that the family unit is taken care of and the household is in proper condition and shit. Like, if you want to push and engage in some sort of a hobby or a passion, that's good and all, but a lot of guys would be very, very open to the idea of them being the full provider and the woman just, being the housewife and possibly taking care of the kids, because motherhood is a full-time job. But unfortunately, economic conditions don't cater to that. The kind of lifestyle that you want to live doesn't cater to that. So expecting a guy to always be the main provider, providing 100%, is kind of like a dream that many women will probably not experience, because with the kind of lifestyle that you're used to living and the kind of guy that you end up with, there's a pretty good chance that you won't be able to achieve that. And sad as some of you might think of it, it's perfectly okay. Like, why is paying bills such a bad thing for you guys? You're making roughly about the same kind of money as dude, if not, you're making roughly about the same kind of money as a guy in the same position you're in. Sometimes you might even be earning more. So why not contribute to bills the same way guys do? Like, if you want to make all of that money yourself and keep it all for yourself, for your investments and your fun and your pleasure and shit, while the guy pays all of the bills, and you can seriously watch this guy struggling to do all of that, then shouldn't we be questioning if you're really in the relationship for the right reasons? Because you think about it, if you're really in love with a person, if you really love someone, would you watch them struggle and not help in any way, shape or form because, I don't know, my money is mine and his money is ours? Like, even though you are to flip the genders on that, if your partner watched you struggle and didn't help, wouldn't you question if your partner actually loves you? And to kind of conclude all of this, I think a lot of women have a very skewed idea of what men want, but also a lot of women, or at least a lot of single women today, have a pretty skewed idea of what they think they should be getting from a relationship. A relationship isn't your financial parachute that should save you from paying bills so that now you can focus on getting your bag and keeping your money and growing it. That's not what it's about. A relationship isn't about you ensuring that you run away from paying bills and adulthood for the rest of your life. Nah, a relationship is about interdependence and enjoying the quality of life and improving the quality of life because of that interdependence. But when you're out here busy saying that today's men are a current crop that want submissive providers, will you ever really be happy with someone that wants you to contribute a little bit to the bills simply because the economic situation for most people doesn't allow them to do that? Because if you're not comfortable with that, then maybe you won't be comfortable in that relationship. And if you're not comfortable in that relationship, then maybe you may not be comfortable in any relationship. Not unless if you want to be the guy that handles all of the bills and is also cheating on you, because guess what? Y'all are the same ones that are calling the guys that aren't able to handle most of these bills broke. And to quote someone that said something very profound this year, A society that tells a broke man he's not worthy of a woman has no right to tell a man to stick to one woman once he's rich. So when this guy is rich, do you really think he's going to stick to you? I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe I might be wrong. Either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open. On IG, it is at the breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the breaktime podcast. And on X, it is at bagaka_the_d. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.